Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is John Muldowney, and I'm the head of the Agriculture and Environmental Structures Division. So welcome to this webinar here today. Again, hard to believe a year has passed since we've been at the field scoring. So as you've probably seen on your phones there earlier in the week, new scorecards have been pushed out to your phones there to try and get this season's work going again. There's over 80,000 scorecards have been issued. So again, it is illustrating a sort of a rebalancing of that work compared to the over 200,000 scorecards that were pushed out last year. So again, it is helping to rebalance the work. So this morning, I suppose we're just going to give you a current update, state of play of where we are at the moment. Ciara will run through that. And then Pat and Oisin will run through the updates in terms of GLAM and the AgriSnap in terms of what to expect in terms of that scoring window that we have and how the app functions itself. We have Stephen Carberry there as well. And we also have colleagues from the CP teams in terms of Caroline Sullivan and Mary McAndrew. So I'm not going to sort of take up time or delay things on it this morning, only again to sort of wish you all the best in this year's field scoring. And there'll be plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. And for anything unanswered, we'll try and revert with those again through an FAQ document to be uploaded on the system afterwards. Okay, so with that, I'll pass over to Ciara there this morning.
Good morning. So I'm just going to share my screen there. My name is Ciara O'Neill. I am working in the policy section of Acres down in Johnstown Castle in Wexford. And I'm just to thank John for the introduction to this optional element of this year's scorecard training session. Some of you will be watching this as a recording, having attended one of the mandatory field courses run by the CP teams. If you're not and you're watching live and you haven't booked into one of those yet, please do. All the booking information and the link are available on the website in Circular 15 of 2024. So before colleagues get into the more detailed and technical aspects of the webinar, I'm just going to give you an overview from an administrative perspective of where we're at with Acres. So it's well publicised, but worth repeating that Acres has been a big draw for farmers. There's currently 54,306 participants over both tranches, with all valid applications facilitated for both Tranche 1 and Tranche 2 entry to the scheme. As of yesterday, there were payments made out in excess of 206 million to Tranche 1 participants. It goes without saying that's a needed boost to the rural economy, but it's also reflective of the huge body of work carried out by you and your colleagues on behalf of your Tranche 1 clients. Tranche 2 contracts commenced on the 1st January 2024, and on this slide we can see that there was 9,685 applications received. There are 9,200 approved and are in the scheme, 97 withdrawals. There's about 450 to be put through approvals and selection to the scheme in the next 2 weeks. Of those, there's a small number of cases that were experiencing some difficulties around the submission of the application and they're being assisted. Those outstanding approval letters will issue in the coming weeks, accompanied then followed by the approval summaries and the farmland plant identification booklets, which are scheduled for issue by the end of June 2024. So with all of this work to be done, why is the in-field training mandatory again this year? Well, results-based is new to most people unless you had clients in EIP or REITs. So with all the new people taking part in results-based, we're providing a lot more courses. There are new advisors qualifying every year, so obviously they'll have to be trained up. You can see from the table on the slide here that over 960,000 hectares were walked and scored in the scoring season of 2023, which is a phenomenal achievement. So the ethos of Acres, as you know, has always been the right action in the right place, and to keep this going as the scheme evolves and embed the bottom-up approach, it's important that the new advisors are trained, and those of you who are already trained have refresher training. This year we'll have, for year 2 refreshers, we'll have more of a focus on invasive species, water quality issues and vegetation structure, as well as the non-productive investments. And year 3 refresher training then will develop further using the field data analysis, your feedback, CP team feedback, and our own inspectors' feedback. From an earlier slide there, we saw the vast area of land walked and scored in year 1. And to avoid a bottleneck of work reoccurring there in years 3 and 5, Circular 6 of 2024 issued and provided that non-commonage land scored in year 1 could be rescored in years 2 and 4 by applying through this. The scorecard requests for those lands have already issued. They'll all have to be scored and submitted by the 31st of August. To note, the payments in respect to 2024 will be based on these scores. So the 2023 scorecards aren't eligible for payment in 2024. These lands, when rescored, then will be scored again for the 3rd and last time in 2026. Terms and conditions. So as it is a new scheme, there's been some updates and there will continue to be updates to the terms and conditions. All of them are notified to you by circular, but some are worth pointing out. Tranche 1 terms and conditions were updated by Circular 14 of 2023, which replaced Annex 5, the penalty schedule. And Circular 12 of 24 updated sections 21.5 just by deleting some text and renumbering the following subsections. Section 33 then inserted the legislation, the statutory instrument on data sharing. We will be circulating an updated version of the terms and conditions for Tranche 1, incorporating all those changes, and that'll go up on the website shortly. Again, for Tranche 2 then, there is amendments to that so far by Circular 14 of 2024. Section 8 was clarified about parcels on which general actions other than Parnell boxes can be located. Section 33 then updated with some more text on data sharing, and Annex 5 updated on the penalty schedule. Similarly, the updated terms and conditions for Tranche 2 incorporating all those amendments will be published shortly. All of the circulars and all of information about acres is available on the website there. You'll see circulars are available 2020 at section 21, and this webinar will be up there as well for viewing afterwards. Okay, so I'm onto the timelines all of a sudden, and it's the last slide I have for you today. June, as you can see, is a busy month, no less than any others. We've the in-field scorecard training is ongoing at the moment. As John mentioned, your scorecards have issued for Tranche 2 and the Tranche 1 fields to be rescored. We'll have our acres payments commencing for the Tranche 1 participants. Your Tranche 2 participants and clients will have approval summaries in their plant species ID booklets issuing. And also Tranche 2 outstanding approval letters issued. The second half of the year then we'll see the scorecard reports issuing, continuation of the scorecard training courses, rare breeds claims in respect to Tranche 1 to be submitted. We'll be contacting all advisors who have rare breeds actions in Tranche 2 with full details on how to submit the claims. The second half of this year then will also see the issue of decision letters in respect of non-productive investments for your CP clients, and the Tranche 2 less returns will have to be submitted via the portal. Again, we'll contact you all. And then with an end then to the second half of this year, the advance payments will start to issue. So all that remains is for me to thank you for your time. Any further questions, you can submit them to the chat bot at the end of this or into either of the 2 email addresses there, and all information is up on our website, gov.ie/acres. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Ciara, for that. Yeah, so look at we'll move along. I suppose we've allowed ourselves plenty of time at the end for questions. So if you do have any questions, just remember you can type them in there to the questions tab. So look at sure we'll move on to Pat Morrison. I'll just give a run through some of the scorecard rules and the timings around the submission of scorecards. So Pat, you can fire ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So look, I'm going to go through these slides. Just seeing that, yeah. So just in this presentation, just introduce myself first. Pat Morrison, I'm an agricultural inspector working in Johnstown Castle on the acre scheme. So a lot of what I'm going to go through, look, I went through in a webinar at the same time last year, but it's just to reiterate the rules, I suppose, in submission of scorecards. Some feedback from the inspections, and just a bit on AMS and how it will be used for acres in 2024.
Hi, Pat. Can you, sorry, can you put that into full screen mode there?
Oh,
the presentation.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Ah, there you go.
Okay, yeah. Okay, sorry
Okay.
about that. Yeah. So, as you all know, look, there's 10 possible scorecards that can be used in the acre scheme. Look, a lot of work went into the content of these scorecards, and thanks to the acres cooperation team and all the work they put into agreeing and putting together these scorecards. So in the scorecard guidance manual that's on the website, you will see there's a matrix, and basically this matrix sets out for the CP farm plans the scorecards that can be changed, and it shows the scorecards that are locked down. So as you can see, look, if a coastal scorecard was assigned, for instance, there is no alternative to this scorecard. So when you open the app in the field, the coastal scorecard must be submitted. But for other scorecards there, such as peatland or grassland, the advisor, in most cases, will have a choice when they're in the field that they're in the field, there's a grassland scorecard assigned, and they can decide, look, a more appropriate scorecard might be rough grazing, peatland, or scrub woodland. So that matrix shows the rules about.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Pat. Have you got WebEx open there? Can you just close the WebEx? I think it might be just shown. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, so for farm sustainability plan, this is where the general actions and the two results-based actions are grassland scorecard, or sorry, LIG general action and low input peat grassland general action. So the only scorecard can be used for LIG is the grassland scorecard, and similarly low input peat grassland scorecard for that other action. In the CP farm plan then, in year one, as I explained, the scorecard matrix applies, but the CP teams have the ability to lock any scorecard when they're assigning them. So if they were assigning a wintry scorecard, for instance, if they don't lock it, the matrix gives the options where that scorecard can be changed. But if it is locked, the advisor will not have the option to change the scorecard type through the app. For years 2 to 5, there is no option for an advisor to change the scorecard type in any scenario. So the scorecard that was used to was submitted in year one will automatically be locked for those fields in subsequent years. And I suppose there's no point in contacting the department at this point, because look, when it's scored in year one, that same scorecard must be used in years 2 to 5. Just regarding the timelines, so for this year, for this year, the scorecard requests went out to AgriSnap on the 4th of June. It took a full day for all scorecard requests to go out, so they're available on the 5th of June. So these scorecards must be returned by the 31st of August. Just once the first scorecard is initiated in the acres participants holding, all the scorecards, non-common scorecards, must be returned for that participant within 14 days. And the date the first scorecard is initiated will be the date the scorecard is either fully or partially completed and saved by the advisor. These timelines apply to all Farm Sustainability Plan and CP Farm Plan scorecards. And if an acre CP participant has low input grassland, low input peat grassland, and CP results-based parcels, all scorecards must be submitted within the time frame set above. As you know, the commonage scorecards are submitted by the CP teams, so would not be included in the above timelines. There's a penalty for the late submission of scorecards after the deadline. So there's 1% penalty for each day late or part day late, up to a maximum 7 days. And similarly, if they're not submitted within the 14 days of the first scorecard being initiated, it's 1% penalty for each day late, up to a maximum of 7 days. So the penalty will be applied to all non-commonage acres results-based payments, and the maximum late submission penalty for scorecards that will be applied is 7%. So if you were more than the 14 days late and also late after the 31st of August, it's the largest of the two penalties will be applied. Any scorecard submitted more than 7 days after the deadline is invalid and ineligible for payment in any year of the contract. Any scorecard submitted more than 21 days after the first scorecard is initiated is ineligible for payment in the relevant year. However, if that scorecard is submitted before the deadline or within 7 days of the deadline, it will be eligible for payment in the following year. And so for tranche 1, it would be, for tranche 2 participants this year, if that scorecard came in after the 21 days, but before the 31st of August, it would be eligible for next year's payment. So for general actions, where the scorecards are not submitted within 7 days of the 31st of August deadline, the parcels will be excluded from the acres contract for the results-based actions. There'll be no payment in the current year. It will not be eligible for payment in future years. And there'll be recoupment if it was paid in previous years. CP rented or leased parcels, again, it's similar to League, that if they're not submitted within 7 days of the 31st of August deadline, they'll be excluded from the contract. There'll be no payment in the current year, and they won't be eligible in future years. So they won't be part of the contract, and there'll be recoupment if paid in previous years. It's a bit different for acres CP owned non-commonage parcels. So these are mandatory. So if it's within the CP zone, if it was forage and there's a scorecard assigned to it and it's in the BIS application in the current year, it must be scored. So where scorecards are not submitted within the 7 days of the deadline, those parcels will not be eligible for payment in the current year, but they will remain in the acres contract. A 20% penalty will be applied to all acres results-based payments, which will include commonage. And also that participant will not be eligible for any landscape bonus payment in any year where a valid scorecard has not been submitted for all the acre CP contract lands. But I suppose there was a lot in that, so maybe it's a bit simpler just go through an example to better explain it. So this farmer has 3 parcels. The first parcel was, the scorecard was submitted on the 1st of July. The advisor waited and didn't submit the next scorecard until the 20th of July. And in parcel 3 then submitted a scorecard on the 10th of September. So the league payment will be based on the valid scorecards submitted for parcel 1 and parcel 2. However, the scorecard for parcel 2 was submitted late, so 6% penalty would be applied to all the non-commonage results-based payments for that year. And league parcel 3 will be removed from the contract as it's not eligible for payment in any year of the acres contract, as it was not submitted within 7 days of the deadline. Second example, this farmer has 4 CP owned parcels and 20 hectares of commonage. The CP owned parcels 1, 2 and 3 were scorecards were submitted on the 20th of July. They were all valid scorecards, and the scorecard for parcel 4 wasn't submitted the 10th September, therefore it's invalid as it wasn't submitted by the deadline or within 7 days. So the 2024 results-based payment will be calculated for the first 3 parcels where valid scorecards were submitted and the 20 hectares of commonage at the relevant payment rates. And then a 20% penalty will be applied to the total acres results-based payments that participant will receive in the year, which would include the payments for the results-based CP parcels and the commonage. And all parcels remain in the contract. So if no scorecards were submitted the following year, a 20% penalty would also be applied. The key message for scoring is, I suppose, start scoring land as early as possible, just so you won't be under pressure come the deadline of the 31st of August. And once you start scoring for a participant, submit all scorecards fully within 14 days and before the deadline. It's really important that advisors would check the GLAM home screen. So if you're out in the field and you think you've submitted on the app, it's important to verify this by going into the office, looking at the GLAM screen and look at the status of those scorecards to ensure they're submitted. It's also very important for Acres CP participants to check the approval letters regarding the ownership status of the CP parcels to see if they're mandatory or not to be submitted. And League, Loan for Peat Grassland and CP rented lease scorecards submitted more than 7 days after the deadline will not be valid, and those parcels will never be eligible for results-based payments in acres. And just, I suppose, to reiterate, the CP owned land is mandatory and will be treated differently. Look, I suppose just a quick word on the inspections that took place in 2023. The feedback from our inspectors was very good, especially in regard to the results-based scorecards. As you know, there was a 10% tolerance allowable where, you know, an inspector score would differ from an advisor score at an action level. But I suppose we did find a minority advisors overscoring fields, and some by as much as 70 marks. The findings from 23 will be used to inform the risk analysis for 2024, and some advisors will be included in a risk-based selection. So where our inspectors found advisors to be significantly overscoring in 23, those advisors can expect a higher proportion of their clients to be inspected in 2024. I suppose you're all familiar now with the area monitoring system. It was an operation for the BIS scheme in 23, and in 2024, the Commission have outlined that it is mandatory for us to use it in the acre scheme. So in 2024, for acres, we will be monitoring results for both extensively grazed pasture and winter bird food. So for extensively grazed pasture, we'll be checking the mowing events between the restricted dates, that's the 15th of March to 1st of July. And where detected and confirmed by expert judgment, these will be sent for rapid field visit, and where appropriate, the compliance penalty will be applied. For winter bird food, we'll be checking for tillage events before the 31st of May. As you know, the deadline was the 15th of May, but it was extended to the 31st of May due to the poor weather and soil conditions. So where AMS shows that there is an issue, it will be again sent for expert judgment, and the farmer will be notified through AMS. So they'll have 3 options. They can accept the finding that where the winter bird food sowing was not has not taken place. they can submit a geotag photo confirming what crop is in place in the parcel, or they can reject the finding and submit a geotag photo to prove that the winter bird food is in place. And if there's no response to the AMS notification, it will be automatically sent for a rapid field visit. That's it. Thank you. And I'll just pass on to Stephen Carberry now, who's going to go through the AgriSnap app and the use of it in the current year. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Just 1 second, I'll share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, that's perfect, Stephen.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. So I'm Stephen Carberry from the Department of Agriculture, and I'm over AgriSnap, the app that will be used for the scorecards again this year. So, as everyone probably knows, at this stage, AgriSnap is the smartphone application developed by the department, including the Walton Institute and Teagasc under the NEVA project, which was a European project. It's currently being used in several countries. It enables advisors to take accurate geotagged photographs and then to complete scorecards using their smartphones, and then to submit them securely and conveniently to the app, to the department through the app. So there's no emails, there's no scanning or anything like that. They just go directly into the GLAM service. The app can be downloaded from the Apple App Store or from the Google Play Store, and there is a new version that was released last Thursday. So make sure you have the latest version of the app, because there's some new features in the app, and you won't have them if you don't download the newest version. So an AgriSnap photo is a photograph which captures the geographic coordinates and the camera details within the background data of the photo or of the scorecard. It provides as I said previously, it provides the advisors a means to securely submit photos and scorecards in response to Acres notifications. And it's been further developed this year based on feedback from advisors taken throughout the year last year. So in 2024, as similar to 2023, you'll receive requests from Acres into the app, and you will then use those to submit scorecards in response. So to log into the app, it's the same system as last year. You use your AgFood username and password, or your agent number, your number and password. The first time you log in, you'll be asked to provide a phone number. This phone number will then receive an SMS code each time you log in. So make sure it's a phone number that you will be using regularly. If you need to change this phone number at any point, you'll need to email agrisnap@agriculture.gov.ie, and we'll change that phone number within the day. As I said, you'll receive a 6-digit code by SMS text message. Once that's received, you enter it into the phone, press login, and that will bring you into the AgriSnap app. Sometimes that text message can take, it usually takes less than 30 seconds, but it can take up to a minute. If you're waiting longer than 2 minutes for the SMS to be received, cancel and restart the process. As I said, once you've validated your AgriSnap or your mobile number to AgriSnap, it's then linked to your AgriSnap account, and this number will be the only one that will receive the SMS text message each time. To change this number takes us, we usually get it done within the day, but if you leave the phone at home, there's very little we can do, I'm afraid. Advisors must log into AgriSnap using their advisor login only when conducting any work on behalf of their client. I know a lot of advisors will also have their own personal account for their own farming activities. But only the advisor account will actually display the requests for your clients. If you're experiencing any issues with AgriSnap, do not uninstall the app, as photos and stored material cannot be retrieved if the app has been uninstalled. Contact us first before doing that. Just some general advice, that same as last year, log into AgriSnap before leaving home or the office. To log into AgriSnap is the same process as to log into, say, AgFood or to GLAM. You require network coverage to do it. So once you log in though, AgriSnap will remain active on your phone for over 24 hours and probably closer to 48 hours. And there are an ability to work offline if connection is lost. And we've also added some new features this year, which I'll go through towards the end of the presentation. Ensure your phone is adequately charged. There's the GPS unit on the, or the GPS, using GPS on your phone can affect battery usage. So just make sure your phone is fully charged before attempting to use it. Also take photos in open spaces. Heavy cover such as trees or being close to a wall or a building, or in some cases very high mountains are in the area, can affect GPS accuracy and can take your device longer to actually locate your position accurately. So the scorecard is very, very similar to last year. So when the scorecard comes in, you'll receive a request. You click, or you will, when you enter the app itself though, you have to go into the filter menu up at the top here and select scheme acres. You can also select then you can also enter the herd number and the year, etc. This year, only 2024 requests will be visible in the app though this year. You can also enter the land parcel ID and press filter, and that will bring up all of the requests based on that herd or for that parcel. So yeah, as I said, that's the acres. Just go into the schemes. There's two options in there. There's acres and then all other schemes. So acres is obviously the one we're going to pick today. And then that'll bring you into a screen like this where all the requests for that herd are displayed. So requests will contain a unique identifier, the herd number this year, which was requested by advisors. So the herd number will also be displayed this year. There will be a message asking you to providing an instruction, and then there's also the status. So we have two status. We have status received, which is the green tick, or status pending, which is the orange camera. The received ones are obviously ones that have already been submitted to the department, and the orange ones are ones that are still waiting in action. So click into one of the orange ones. What comes up is a screen similar to this. So the blue dot outside the parcel represents your location, and then in respect to the parcel. If you're far enough away that you can't locate the parcel, if you select get directions, it'll bring up a Google Maps style page, which will actually give you directions directly to the parcel and will actually track you through the fields or through by car if you're traveling by car either. Just be careful of this. If you're using it in your car, I know some of our own staff do this. It can be quite taxing on your battery, so make sure you're fully charged or you have an ability to charge your phone. But it is a very, very useful feature. Once you arrive at the parcel, make sure you enter the parcel and progress at least 10 meters inside the boundary. This is because most phones are limited to between 5 and 10 meters accuracy with GPS. So AgriSnap is unfortunately limited to the abilities of the device. So we recommend to enter the parcel at least 10 meters. Once you are recognized being in the parcel, the phone will update and tell you that you're inside the parcel, but it will also ping once it identifies you within the parcel. So this is the blue dot representing you, and as you move, that should move with you. And that's the get directions that brings up the Google Maps style page I was talking about. So then once you go in, you can actually scroll down to the image on the left is the same page. You can scroll down, yet again it gives you the parcel number. It also gives you a description and an instruction. It provides you the ability to update your location. So if you find that the blue dot isn't tracking your position accurately, you believe you're inside the parcel, but it's not. If you press update location, this for a very short time gives an extra burst of GPS, which increases the accuracy of your phone. So we should update the position more accurately. Once your phone identifies you as being within the parcel, you select Start Survey. The screen here on the right opens up, which will allow you to score or the scorecard type. This will be pre-assigned. However, in some cases, you can select into this and it'll give you other options, but it depends on the request. Before you can actually begin the scorecard evaluation, you must take a picture. So you select take picture and that will open up the camera for you. So once your phone identifies you as being within inside the parcel, it will allow you that option. If your phone does not recognize you as being inside the parcel, it will not allow you the ability to take the photo in the first place. So you must make sure that you are far enough into the parcel that it's actually recognized you're in the correct location. And once that happens, select take photo and take a photo of the parcel using the standard camera on your phone. Once that happens, it'll take you back in and you can start the survey. So the scorecards, I'm only going to go through one here, the Grassland Assessment Scorecard, and they're all laid out in similar fashion. They all have multiple select options. They have some drop-down menus. There also is the ability, if you select one question, it will gray out another question. However, if you unselect that question, it'll provide all the options again, and you can go back in and select the second option rather than the first one. It's all touch screen based, so you just select the option, just touch the option that you want to record. And this is the second screen, as you can see up there. So I'll just go back slightly there. So for 4A, if you select 4A or question A, 4A, then it has grayed out some of those selections. If you select 4B, it'll gray out 4A. You also have, as I said, the pop-up menus, so or drop-down menus. So it'll provide different options for you to select. These are dependent on the question being asked and differ per scorecard. There's also then the ability to record a specific field management comment to the farmer, to select management recommendations, and then to provide other management advice if required. Finally, then you can select complete scorecard. What you'll find then is this kind of a summary page. It'll give you the current score, it'll provide the photo that you took, and it'll then allow you to either submit a draft scorecard, which will return to GLAM, but will allow you to edit it within GLAM, or you can submit the final scorecard, which will go straight to GLAM. However, it will not allow you the ability to edit that scorecard. If you select submit scorecard, there is a validation process that happens within AgriSnap. If there are any mandatory questions that have not been answered, it will bring you back to those questions until you answer them. It will not allow you to submit a scorecard that hasn't had the mandatory questions responded to. In this case, you could submit it as a draft scorecard, but you will have to go into GLAM and finish out that scorecard to submit it. If you do not go in and finish off the scorecard in GLAM, it is not a submitted scorecard. Finally, when you have submitted your scorecard, if you go into the photos gallery at the bottom, what will happen is the photo that you took will have the sent banner on it, so you know that that scorecard has been submitted, including the photo. What will also happen is, since we selected the second one down here, it will then update the status received. And then you just move into the next pending scorecard, select that, and repeat the process. So one change from last year is the ability to go into an offline mode. So based on feedback we received from advisors last year, when we went into areas of poor coverage, what was happening was the app was, the coverage in a lot of cases was flickering, and the app was attempting to reconnect, and that caused issues. Sometimes the app froze, sometimes it blocked the app from working. It had to log out and log back in. Two ways the advisors tried to overcome this themselves was either going into airplane mode or by actually switching off their mobile data. To switch off their mobile data, you have to go into your settings, and there's a number of steps. It differs per phone, so we couldn't provide guidance on that. Switching off the airplane mode on your phone on some devices also turns off your GPS, in which case AgriSnap will not work because your location is obviously based on its ability to provide GPS. So what we've done this year is, if you go into the settings menu, which is this little wheel up at the top, once you have downloaded your scorecards, when you're in an area of good coverage, you have your scorecards on the app, you can go up to that little wheel. When you select that, it'll bring you into the settings page, and we have an offline option in there, an offline mode. So that's new for 2024. What that does is that disconnects the app from your mobile data. So it basically isolates the app, that it cannot be affected by flickering of the network coverage. This obviously will stop you downloading any new scorecards into the app while it's in this mode. You have to remember to go in and turn it off. However, it should provide any protection from any kind of flickering issues, which caused an awful lot of issues last year. Also in this menu, just to highlight, there is the ability to change the language. We only have 2 languages currently, so English and Irish. You also have an ability to contact us directly. So that will open up an automatic email that could come into agrisnap@agriculture.ie. It records some information for us, such as the username and the parcel number based on the request, and also allows you then the ability to add text to it, so it comes straight into us from there. This is also how you log out of the app as well. However, as I said, once you're out in the field, I wouldn't log out of the app, as you need an area of good coverage to log into the app. So once logged in, I would remain logged in for the day, definitely. So if you're experiencing any negative issues with AgriSnap, as I said, please do not uninstall the app without contacting us. There is a user manual available. It'll be updated in the next few days for 2024 to include some of those new features, as I mentioned. So as I said, there is the ability to turn off mobile data for the app within the app. That doesn't affect the mobile data on your phone, by the way. It's just isolating the app. What we also have done is we reduced the size of the scorecards. So this also shouldn't be as much of an issue this year. But if you do experience any technical issues, you can contact AgriSnap at agriculture.gov.ie, or you can, you should probably also contact Acres at agriculture.gov.ie as well, so they're aware of any issues being experienced. Okay, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, so look at it, I suppose Oisin's up next, and you'll have more details, I suppose, on the contact emails for help and that sort of, and any bother that people have. So look at Oisin, you can fire ahead, and hopefully I see some of the questions are rolling in there. So hopefully, look at, as we go through the presentation, some of those questions will already be answered, but we'll get to the questions anyway at the end. Thanks.
Can you see my screen there, Aidan?
Not yet.
Yeah, here now, I'd say, can you?
Yeah, perfect, yeah.
Okay, we'll start into it. So my name is Oisin McGlynn. I'm working in the AES division here in the Department of Ag, primarily working on acres and GLAM. So today I just want to go through the GLAM screens with yourselves, just maybe following on from some of the stuff that Stephen went through with AgriSnap, and I suppose how AgriSnap and GLAM work together. So we'll take an example and bring it through the whole process. We look at the draft scorecard PDF that's available on GLAM, and there's one slight issue with the woodland, I don't know why that's going, woodland scrubland scorecard. So we'll just point that out, maybe to make you more aware of it than anything. There's procedures for inaccessible scorecards. And then last but not least, we look at the late meadow bonus requests, which will be out to you in July. So I'm aware that there's probably new advisors and existing advisors on the call. So to log into GLAM, first of all, what you have to do is go into your AgFood, put in your agent details, your PIN and your password. And then when you get into the next screen, all your authorized applications will show up. So for yourself, you'll just be selecting generic land management here. On the next screen, you'll select acres. And then this will bring you into the client list. So on this here, you can see you have your tranche over here on the left. So you have tranche 1 and tranche 2. So for this one, I've selected tranche 1. And over here, you have the plan type. So it's acre CP farm plan I've selected here. So you'll have your farm sustainability plan, you'll have your MPIs and so on. And just one thing to point out there, when you do come over and you select tranche 1, it automatically only brings up the tranche 1 applications, and likewise for tranche 2. Then over here on the right, you have to press search, and then all your clients will show up. If you only select these first 2 options here, none of your clients will show up unless you hit the search button. So just be aware of that when you're doing it. Then down here you have your filter option. So this allows you to filter. You can filter by herd number, you can filter by name, townland, so whichever one you want to filter by. So for this one, we've gone and filtered with a herd number. We knew the herd number of the client. I suppose one thing just maybe to point out that any names or anything here on the screen it's all test data, so it's completely anonymized. They're not real subjects. So we can see we have our client showing up here. and to come over here, then you just click on the view button, and that will bring you into your next screen. So on the next screen here, you have your plan summary. So we're looking for the acre CP farm plan here. So you click on the view button, and that'll bring you into the main screen, I suppose. This is having a mind of its own here now, so just bear with me. Yeah, this will bring you into the main screen. So this is the screen that shows you all your environmental assets and so on. So you'll scroll down there, and you'll come down in here into your mapped actions section. So this is where all your scorecards and all your actions show up. So the first arrow here is pointing out 2023 tab and a 2024 tab. So this is the tranche 1 applicant in year 2. So they'll have 23 scorecards and 24 scorecards, so a tab for each. If you're in tranche 2, you'll only have the 1 tab here for 24, right? So the next thing over here to point out to you is the unique identifier, and the unique identifier is unique to the scorecard itself. So we'll say, for example, if a parcel itself shows up and goes through Lippis rebuild, the parcel number itself will change, but the unique identifier will never change. So it's always linked to that scorecard type. Over here we have your map label. Just for the advisors, you don't really need to be concerned about that. It's more for the CP teams, and they could enter in their own data here themselves for their own assessment. Next, you have your scorecard area, and that's just the area assigned to that scorecard. So the important one there for yourselves to look at as well is your assigned scorecard. So for these ones, again, I just created these myself, so they're all rough grades and scorecards, and they're all actually just in the same parcel. So hopefully you won't have that when you're out scoring. The next button over here is your view scorecard button. So when you log in, before these are sent to, before you've done anything on AgriSnap, you can come over here, and if you want to familiarize yourself with the scorecard before you go out to the field, you can click on this button here, and that'll allow you to view the scorecard in read-only mode, just again to familiarize yourself. So moving along there, you have your lock scorecard button, and Pat touched on this. Obviously, for you, all scorecards in tranche 1, year 2 are locked down, so you can just see there from what Pat was saying, they're all grayed out, so these can't be changed by the matrix that Pat was talking about. Obviously, then if it was a tranche 2 herd and a CP farm plan, you'll be able to see the ones that they locked down, so you'll be able to see that before you go out to the field. So the next important status to show you is the status button here. So we can see all of these are sent to AgriSnap. So as John said, all the scorecard requests are gone out to yourselves onto the AgriSnap app. So the way they move is there's 4 different statuses. So they'll be created when the CP teams have created them, or for the LIG ones, once they're generated, they'll be created. Then once they're picked up by the batch process and sent to AgriSnap, the status changed to sent to AgriSnap. So that's what you want to be seeing here for all these ones. Then obviously when you go into the app and you submit them, they go to, if it's submitted fully, it goes to submitted status. If it's submitted partially, it'll be in draft. So just be aware of those statuses when you're completing the plans. Again, you can see the status date for these as well, so when the status moved. Another important one for yourselves to be aware of here is the generate CP farm plan image. Basically what that is, it's the PDF of the assigned scorecard. So it's a draft PDF of the assigned scorecards. And what you have to do with this one is you come in here and you click generate CP farm plan images. Now it might take a minute or two to generate, but up on the top here, once it's fully generated, you'll see the PDF has been generated successfully. So once you see the green banner up here, you can then come down here to the download PDF, and it'll just populate on the right hand side of your screen and allow you to download it. So we'll just take a look at what that PDF looks like. And again, it's hugely important for yourselves to familiarize yourself with the PDF. You can print this out for yourself, and take it out to the field when you're doing your scoring. You can have it as a nice aid with the AgriSnap app. So you can see this one itself is it's the Acre CP Farm Plan Scorecard Draft Summary. The cooperation zone is here. So this one is Midwest Southern Uplands. Then we've included the farmers' details here. We had the advisors' details here along with it, and we removed them. So that's one thing that's been changed here for you. The next page then moves you along to the assigned scorecards. So you can see here you have your LIPIS here. You have your unique identifier that we pointed out on the home screen. You have your scorecard types and then the area that's assigned to them. Moving on then on the following page, you have the scorecard legend. So when we go to the map on the next screen, you'll be able to see the different colors that are assigned to the different scorecard types. And it makes them stand out a bit more, and especially when you have maybe 2 or 3 different scorecard types in a big parcel, they're easily identifiable by the scorecard legend. So I suppose to tie all that together, then on the last page you have your image. So what you can see here is you have your unique identifier showing up down here, okay, and that's also on the parcel itself, so you can easily identify it for yourself. You have the labels that's there. I explained that they're more for the CP teams more than anything, and then your scorecard type. So again, look, it's a nice feature to have. So I'd advise all advisors to go in before you go out scoring. Go in, familiarize yourselves with the GLAM screens that are there before you go out, and print this out and have it with you. I know you're probably all familiar with your client's land, but again, it's nice to have, and it's a good aid when you're scoring. Okay, and maybe to tie this all together with AgriSnap and GLAM, and maybe some of the improvements that we've made based on what you've pointed out yourselves last year. So this is going ahead on me every now and then. Okay, so this is the PDF here on the left, and this is the AgriSnap app here on the right hand side. So you're out in the field itself. You can see underneath here in the table you have your LIPIS number, and then you come over here, you also have your LIPIS number here in the AgriSnap app. So it's easy to correlate between the two and distinguish which requests are belonging to which parcel. Okay, I suppose the big thing, and another good change and improvement that we've made to both GLAM and AgriSnap is on the request data. We've included the unique identifier. We've included the unique identifier here in the text, so you can see it's here in the text. You can see, for example, this one ended in 1514. You come over here to the PDF. It corresponds over here with the unique identifier, and you come up to the map here as well, and it's there. So I suppose, look, when you're out in the field, it's become kind of more easy to follow the process and get through the scorecards as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So just before we move on, if we maybe just note this one here, this parcel ending in 1514 and 1710. So for example, we'll say you've been out in the field and you've scored these parcels. You can see this guy here has changed to received. As Stephen said, the green tick is there as received. And then you come down here to the 1710, it's also down as received. So one of these has been submitted fully on the app and the other has been submitted partially. So we've done what we had to do in the app, but again, as Pat said, the most important thing for yourselves as advisors is to come back into the GLAM screens after you've completed the scoring in the field and come in and double check that all the work has been done. My screen isn't showing there, is it? Yeah,
it is. Yep.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Come back in then and double check that all the work has been done as you've completed it out in the app in the field. I suppose with the best will in the world, and maybe with weather conditions and workloads, you might think you submitted them all in fully, and there might be one stuck in draft that you hit by an accident. So I'd encourage you all to come back into GLAM, and if it's for, this is a tranche 1 year 2, so you have to select the 2024 tab and then come over to the status. So bearing in mind the two that I pointed out, 1710, I can come back in here and I can see that this one is submitted in draft. So this is my next step here, is I come in here and click on the view scorecard button. And once I click on that, I can go back into that and edit the scorecard and complete it. And then I must click on submit then to make sure that's submitted. Again, once I've done that, I'm going to come back over to the status bar and see this updates to submitted. The other one then, it was the parcel ending in 15, unique identifier ending in 1514. I fully submitted that, and I can see here that it was fully submitted on the 30th of the 5th, 24. So again, I can't probably reiterate this anymore. It's hugely important that all advisors come back in after they've done the field work and double check that they've fully submitted all the scorecards. Okay, so that really is the process that you have to follow between GLAM and AgriSnap. So again, like I said, there was one slight issue with the woodland scrubland scorecard, and just to point it out to yourselves and make you aware of it. So when you come down here, this is the PDF now, but if you come down here, so A1S and A1W. So the AgriSnap app allows you to answer both A1S and A1W. But I just want to make it clear that only one of these should be answered. So if you're out in that parcel and A1S is for scrub, if it's a scrub dominated parcel, you're going to answer A1S. If it's a woodland dominated plot, you're going to answer the woodland one. So just be aware of that when you're out scoring and you're in the woodland scrubland scorecard, you only answer one of them. Right, so it was kind of more of the CP side that I went through in the examples, but the scorecards for the acres general, Pat touched on it in his earlier slides, that the AgriSnap requests were automatically generated for all low input grassland and low input peak grassland scorecards. So they've all been with you now for a couple of days, so they're on the app. And I suppose the important thing to point out is the process between that you follow on the app and in GLAM is the exact same. So if you're looking for reference, you can come back into this presentation and go through it. So that's all on the general side there. For herds not rescoring in year 2. Okay, this is just another thing we're just going to point out to yourselves. So herds not rescoring in year 2, so they've opted not to rescore in year 2 in the BIS application in 2024. I touched on it there in the mapped actions tab. We have a 23 and a 24 tab. So 2023 scorecards for the herds that have not opted to score in year 2, they're copied directly into the 2024 tab, and they're as read only. And the reason that is because I suppose these herds are still available for inspection. They're still in the scheme, so just be aware of it yourself. If you go in and you see that there's a 2024 tab for tranche 1 year 2 and they haven't opted to rescore, that's the reason behind it, and they can't be edited. And then again, just to make you aware of it, and you know yourselves, if they haven't opted to rescore this year, they're going to have to rescore in year 3. So the next thing we want to just touch on is the inaccessible parcels. So I suppose as the scheme was new last year in its first year, you know, you're always going to come across some issues, and some of these were the inaccessible parcels. Just to point it out that the circular 15 out of 2023 deals with this in full. I'm only going to point out the main things to you. So just make yourselves familiar with that if you want to go read up on it. So So any of the parcels that you're unable to access and submit a scorecard for health and safety reasons, these cases can be emailed to DAFM at the email address below, with the subject line clearly stating the access issue due to the health and safety reason. So it's important then, following on from that, to include in the email address, in the email, you want to put in the business ID of the acres participant. You want to put in the acre stream, whether they're CP or general, the parcel number, the scorecard type, the field identifier, and the issue and the reason that you couldn't access it for health and safety reasons. So again, just to point it out, in the subject line, you're going to put in access issues due to health and safety reasons. Then follow it on with these few details here. I suppose, look, another key thing to point out here is where these inaccessible parcels and no scorecard is submitted for that parcel, this parcel will be ineligible for a results-based payment in acres. So I suppose, look, the big thing is health and safety for yourselves is paramount, so that comes first. But it's just to make you aware that that's in the terms and conditions. So again, health and safety being the #1 priority. Right, so for issues encountered out in the field, so if there's any technical issues in the field, you contact DAFM through the relevant email address for the resolution. So you either contact acrescp@agriculture.gov.ie for the CP ones, and acres@agriculture.gov.ie for the general ones. Again, with the best will in the world, sometimes you might go out, you might experience some technical difficulties in the field with the app. So if you're unable to complete the score, if you do run into that issue, my advice would be to have a paper scorecard with you and complete the scorecard on paper. So then you can contact DAFM with all the relevant information, and these cases will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis and reverted to draft for completion on GLAM. So look, again, if you do run into these issues, just make sure you have the paper versions of the scorecard so that you complete it. The last thing that you want to be doing is going back out to the field to complete that scorecard. Moving on to some upcoming developments, we will have an advisor scorecard report function available to yourselves on GLAM in July, and I suppose it's a nice development. It'll allow you to be able to go in to the report and filter. You might be able to go in and you can go in and filter based on the statuses. So you can go in and see your full client list and all the scorecards and track your progress throughout. So that's a nice touch again from last year, and it was something that you requested to aid with the big workloads and getting through the scoring season. So that will be there in July for yourselves. Again, the late meadow bonus AgriSnap requests, they'll be generated in July also. So moving on from that, then we'll go into the late meadow bonus itself. So I suppose the most important thing to point out here for the late meadow bonus is the earliest date the meadows can be cut for hay or silage is the 1st of July. And the last date that they can be cut is the 31st of August, okay? I suppose last year we had a lot of AgriSnap, we had a lot of requests for the late meadow bonus. Unfortunately, after we checked the photos that came in, there was quite a number of, we'll say, disappointing photos taken just incorrectly. So just for everyone on the call, just familiarise yourselves with the spec for the late meadow bonus. You can go into the acre spec on page 66. And the most important part of this, obviously, is the key date. The 2 dates there are key, but the photos themselves is probably where maybe some advisors might have fell down. So the photo must be submitted to DAFM on the date of mowing or within 5 days after mowing activity has taken place, but not prior to any significant regrowth. So the photos that came in, I suppose, look, I'll go through some of them, ones that were deemed suitable and ones that were deemed not suitable, but there was a large volume of ones that were taken of full meadows, of parcels that weren't mown. So just be aware that of the terms and conditions for the late meadow bonus, because it is a nice touch for your clients and they don't want to be missing out on that. So the first one here we look at, this is clearly a suitable photo. We can see it's been mown, their bales are still in the field. There's no regrowth here, so again, this is definitely a suitable photo and it'll qualify for the late meadow bonus. We look at another one here. Again, this is probably tossed out for hay, so the meadow has been cut, it's been shook out, and again, it's a perfect example of what should be taken for the late meadow bonus. Again, the next one here, moving on. This is another field that was mown for silage. You can clearly see that this has been just cut. It's just been mowed. It's a full representation of the parcel as well. That's another thing, like that. You know, it makes it a lot easier for us to make a decision on some of these that that might be kind of harder to make out. You can see the full landscape here in this photo. So again, that's easily identifiable for us as a suitable picture. Again, the next one down here is deemed suitable. There's a small bit of regrowth here. You can see that it has been mown. You can see the tracks of the baler or the trailer's gone out through the field. So that will qualify for the late meadow bonus. So the next few slides we look at ones that didn't qualify and are not suitable. So you can see this one here. It doesn't show any representation of a parcel that's been mown or mown within 5 days. So there's been significant regrowth here, whether it was grazed or mown. You can see just even here, like there's covers up around the 1400s kilograms of dry matter here. So it's definitely not suitable. And I suppose if you maybe stop and think about it and then do the maths with it, these parcels, so grass growth in around that July period, probably growing in around 70 kilograms of dry matter per hectare per day. And to get to a cover of around them 1400, you're looking at 20 days of growth. And I suppose parcels after they're mown, they're slower to come back again. So it's easily identifiable as not suitable. This one is probably disappointing in a sense that the farmer would have qualified for the payment. There is some sort of a meadow here, but the photo was just taken at the wrong time. Look, if they might have cut it a couple of days after, but you go back to the terms and conditions and it's a parcel, you know, it should represent a mown meadow or mown within 5 days. So unfortunately this one didn't qualify. So just to be aware of the spec, I suppose. So maybe just to put it into context, as to kind of, you know, what we're looking for. This is silage that I took a photo of myself. So this was day one here on the left hand side, and you can clearly see that the parcel has been mown. There's a good representation of the field. It's quite easy to make out this field has been cut. So that's clearly qualifies. And then over here on the right hand side of the screen, this was taken 5 days after the parcel was cut. Look, there's a small bit of regrowth there, but it's clearly identifiable that, you know, that is within the 5 days. Look, different fields will have different levels of regrowth at different times of year depending on the weather, but we wouldn't be expecting to see too much more than this after 5 days. You know, parcels would just be starting to green up with small levels of regrowth. So just to make you aware of it, it is a nice it is a nice payment for your clients. So yeah, so that's all from me here today. That's the last slide I wanted to go through, and wish you the best of luck in the scoring. Thanks very much. I'll leave you over back to Aidan for the next speaker.
Okay, thanks, Oisin. A lot of information there and a lot of useful, I suppose, detail there on things. So look, we have one more presentation here from Caroline and Sullivan. So Caroline, maybe if you, Caroline's from the Breifne CP team, so if you can load up your presentation, and then we'll go through some of the questions then after that. Thanks.
Super, thanks Aidan. Can you see that now?
Yeah, perfect, yeah.
Lovely. I won't keep you too long. Just going to have a quick chat about the scorecards, just a refresher, if you will. Just get this going here. So as you're aware, and as you've been told ad nauseum now, scorecards are integral to the results-based approach. They're designed to provide signals for farmers for things that could be better and therefore help improve the scores. So the score isn't the entire goal here. It's where did you lose your marks is a key thing for the farmer and advisor to be able to identify, because improved scores are the name of the game here. All fields with scorecards and acres can yield scores from 0 to 10. And as you're aware, scores of less than 4 will receive no payment. So we're looking to get at least a score of a 4, if not higher, ideally. The scorecard highlights issues and the farmer can choose how to address them. Again, it's worth mentioning, nothing is mandatory and nothing has to change if it doesn't suit. So a field that isn't scoring great can stay not scoring great if it is part of a system that works for the farmer. There's no pressure to change, though we will be advocating change. So the CP teams will work with the farmer and advisor to improve scores and the associated payments over the next number of years. Actions, or the snappily titled non-productive investments, are available to help farmers in Acre CP to improve scores where appropriate, and hopefully the farmers will be receiving their actions plans from last year in the next short while. But something to note when you're in the field this year, and hopefully you'll have more time to think about it, is if the field boundaries are poor in a field, should you consider hedgerow planting as an option in that field? If the field boundaries are moderate, then would hedgerow rejuvenation as an action be suitable to improve that? If grazing is poor due to the field not being stock-proof, then consider whether fencing and gates should be applied for as an NPI. So hopefully this year, without the pressure of last year, and with a bit more information on the NPIs, you'll be able to consider those things. Pat mentioned this, but it's just worth mentioning again as well, I suppose. The peatland scorecard targets peatland habitats and upland birds. So there's no scorecard really that has a single target. All scorecards are designed to deliver for biodiversity, carbon sequestration, water quality, soil quality, flood resilience, and fire resilience. And then additionally, there are more specific targets. The grassland card targets semi-natural grassland habitats and pollinators. The rough grazing targets hen harrier, barn owl, small birds and mammals. And the list goes on, but I suppose there's multiple benefits that can be delivered from each of the different scorecards, which is important to remember. The information from year one, Ciara presented this earlier as well, but again, just to re-emphasize that what was achieved last year was absolutely phenomenal. Between the advisors and the CP teams, almost 1 million hectares of land was surveyed in the summer of 2023. So pat on the back for everyone who was involved in that again, because that really is absolutely phenomenal. Well done. Importantly then, I suppose that effort has yielded an awful lot of data. And so I just want to talk a little bit about that information. So there were the most widely applied scorecard was the grassland scorecard. 128,000 hectares of land in Ireland had the grassland scorecard applied to it. And then the next most popular scorecard applied was the rough grazing. And then all the other scorecards were applied to less than 20,000 hectares of land. So the peatland, the low input peat grassland, scrub woodland, chuff. And then the numbers drop off considerably for the coastal grassland, your winterage, corncrake and breeding wader. They're still very important elements, but you can see that the majority of the scorecards are the grassland, rough grazing, peatland, low input peat grassland and scrub woodland. And then from a national overview perspective, on the private land, the same trend applies. So there was an awful lot of, the majority of the private land had grassland scorecards applied, and then that was followed by peatland scorecards and then rough grazing. So you can see the figures there, and the chuff, scrub woodland, these scorecards here had less than 10,000 hectares of land assigned to them, but that's not insignificant, obviously, in the grand scheme of things. So the fieldwork carried out by advisors in the CP teams will inform CP teams where to focus campaigns for certain actions or training, and that's really, really valuable for us. The data will be used in conjunction with local area plans to identify key assets and issues within those areas. So I just have an example here of the Breifne local area plan, and what the local area plans are a compilation of data to identify key environmental assets on the farms. This is the main Breifne region and the Monaghan area over here. So different colors represent different combinations of objectives, and there are lots of assets in each CP region, but it's best to focus on the local and the farm scales. So, you know, if you've got farmers in this region, then you need to know what are the targets in this region and how can we assist farmers there in delivering them. And so the objectives across the CPs will primarily be water quality, peatland, semi-natural grassland, woodland, raptors, chuff, geese and swans, barn owl and kestrel, red grouse, breeding wader, archaeology, and marsh fertility. And there may be a few additional things on this list depending on the CP, or some of these things may be absent in different CPs. But it's very much a local area plan targeting the things that the farmers have full control of or can manage for. So how do we use that in conjunction with the scorecards? Well, this is a snapshot of the scorecard results from 2023. And you can see the score range there. The zeros are red, and if you're kind of orange to yellow, you're in the Midland category 4, 5, and 6. And once it's any shade of green, it's a score of 7 or higher. In this region here, you can see on the left-hand side, there's a very high proportion of green, and on the right-hand side, there's a higher proportion of red. So the CP teams can then investigate, are there specific issues occurring here? Are there invasives that are problematic? Or is it just more intensive type of farmland? And we can investigate that by looking at the other elements of the scorecard that you reported. So this is the data on the non-native invasives for those same fields. And you can see for the vast majority of them, there were no non-natives. So that's really positive. And there's a couple of yellow patches and orange patches here and there. And we can touch base with those farmers and see if they want to do anything about those. But clearly non-native invasive is not a widespread issue. If we look at the same map again, but considering your water quality risk, you can see that there are some more issues there, often low, but in some cases moderate water quality issues. So again, the scorecard data helps us to target those fields specifically and try and improve those. So then on a much smaller scale, you can see this is an example from South Breifne. We know it's a high nature value farmland landscape. There's a lot of lakeshore here. And then in the distance, we've got upland and the Kilkennearan Plateau. And there's moderate water quality in Lough Allen, and most rivers have a good water quality. The region has a lot of small fields with a dense network of hedgerows, ditches and earth banks, and it's really good hunting habitat for birds of prey. From a local area objectives point of view, water quality is a really important objective there in orange. Peatlands are a really important objective there in blue, and then we have some dual objectives. So in this green area here, that is a geese and swan objective and a water quality objective. So what does that mean from a farming perspective? Well, here it's the same map again, but with the data from the scorecards. So again, a very nice high proportion of green, which is very positive, but we can identify the areas that have the low to middling scores, and then we can investigate what the issues are there and work with the farmer to try to improve them. So for example, here we would start with these fields. Here, right on the lake shore, here, you know, this is a direct route into the lake, and here this is a large parcel. So they're key things that we can focus on. And then in tandem with this, we hope to provide advice that can improve the scores for the field score in 4s, 5s and 6s. So to move from your orange yellow into your green sphere. Admittedly, this won't change overnight, but within a couple of years, there could be a significant change in this area, and the local area objective will be much closer to being achieved. As was mentioned, there's some updates to the scorecard guidance for 2024. There are several updates to the scorecard guidance document. The vast majority of them they're all clarifications to help you interpret what is seen in the field. And the changes are presented in the updated guidance in green, so they're easy for you to identify. So if you download the 2.0 version of the guidance, you can see the changes in green. So it's easy to focus in on those. And there's also a document with all the amendments provided in a list. If you spot any area that would benefit from more clarification, or you're reading through the guidance and you're not sure exactly what is meant, then please get in touch with us, and if necessary, we'll incorporate changes in the future. So this is just an example of what those changes look like. So most of them are based on in-field experience from last year, but here, table 2, the thresholds for scoring A2, they're just a small number of additions to help you make the assessment of a high versus a very high cover of positive indicators. And again, for A3, the negative indicators, there are 2 notes there just to consider depending on the type of field that you're in. Okay. Very quickly, I'm going to mention commonages. The CP team surveyed over 400,000 hectares of commonage, almost 100% of the commonage in the country. The only commonage that wasn't surveyed relates to, so the only new commonage this year are tranche 2 participants who had no shareholders in last year, and there's a small number of those. But the vast majority of these were assigned peatland scorecards. And now we have an impressive national database on commonage quality, with an ability to identify issues affecting these commonage parcels today. There's a range of images there from across the country. They're some of the most beautiful landscapes in Ireland, but not without some challenges. So in relation to the commonage scorecards, again, 417,000 hectares of commonage. The vast majority of those were assigned peatland, but other scorecards were assigned also. The CP teams walked all the commonages. They followed the scorecard guidance protocol as outlined in the training, and the routes and images of structure and damaging activities were recorded. The CP teams will have slightly different, but probably quite similar strategies for communicating routes to improving scores once the scores have issued. Now, we're very aware that shareholders are very anxious about this, and we're dying to talk to them about their commanages, and we're looking forward to getting stuck into that. So the CP teams will work on communicating simple things for improving scores. The two simplest things are where dumping has occurred or where self-sown conifers occur, depending on the scale. They can be dealt with. We will also work with shareholders who want to apply for landscape actions to improve scores. These may be more complicated, such as drain blocking or targeted grazing, but the staff on all the CP teams have completed a peatland restoration course with the Crichton Carbon Centre in Scotland. This was funded by the Wild Atlantic Nature. So we're in a good position to start progressing those things. It is undoubtedly going to be a big, but it is a really exciting challenge ahead in relation to those commanages. For yourselves, if you are aware of issues on a commanage with shareholders, in particular with shareholders who are open to making changes, then please do get in touch with the relevant CP team. For areas where there's no desire to make a change, then we won't be pushing actions on those commanages, but we will work with any shareholders that want to work with us. And the sooner we know about them, the better, the sooner things can get going. So yeah, think about that when you're out and about this summer as well. In relation to 2024, the scorecard data is key for directing management advice and appropriate actions. Like, you're not just gathering data for the sake of gathering data. The more accurate the data is, the more useful it is for us in terms of getting results. So it will direct CP action and advice campaigns. You know, we won't just be dealing with actions, we will be dealing with kind of advice and bespoke advice for the people that need that information. And again, it's worth mentioning that the CP teams will be more available than last year, and no more than yourselves, you were overwhelmed with the amount of work that had to be done, and you just had to get out in the field and keep walking. We were in the same situation last year, but again, hopefully similar to yourselves, we will be more available this year, and we do want to meet with you on farms and discuss any issues that you come across. And finally, the very best of luck with the 2024 field season, and do reach out to us if at any point if you need advice. All right, that's me done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Caroline. So look, at this stage, maybe we could ask all the presenters and panelists to turn on the cameras, and we'll go through some of the questions that have come in. And I suppose there's a couple there to start with. I can maybe just kick it off with there seems to be a good few questions there for maybe directed to Stephen on the AgriSnap app and the update of that, as to how advisors can update that. So maybe just Stephen, I wonder, could you give just a quick refresher on that?
Just one second, my camera. I can indeed. Sorry, I had included that in previous presentations. I hadn't included in this one. So to update the app, all you have to do is go into the Google Play Store if you have an Android phone, or go into the Apple App Store if you have an iOS phone or an Apple phone. If you type in AgriSnap, it'll bring up a screen that'll either have the option to install or to open. If it's install, press install, because that's informing you that you need the newest version. If it says open, or I think in the Apple version it says get, it's get or install if you don't have the most current version. If the option is open, you already have the most current version. And I see in one of the questions for Android, the most current version is version 4.0.0, and for iOS it's 3.1.0. And if you go into that settings tab that I showed at the end there, where you have the ability to go into the offline or to contact or to change the language, the version is displayed there. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. So just I seen a comment or a question there too, just a query as regards the scorecards that were issued out there in the last number of days for year 2 scoring. Question was will they be populated with the 23 results? And no, they're not. So they're obviously blank scorecards that you rescore for 2024 on. So I suppose that's so there was another couple of questions maybe on the soil sample. The soil sample submissions, that the dates, the 2022 dates can't be entered. Maybe Mark or Ciara could handle those ones.
Yeah, we're aware that there's an issue with the 2020. I suppose just to bear in mind that it's not going to affect payments. I think that might have been the focus of the question. Soil samples for tranche 1, the submission has been deferred to the end of the year. So payments between now and the end of the year, the soil sample check won't be part of that. So the 2022 issue, it has been raised in the last couple of days and we're looking at it. But I suppose for now, 2022, or sorry, payments won't be affected.
Perfect. There was a couple of questions there. Maybe Pat, you could address them just on the riparian buffer zone and the eligible areas as regards BIS.
Yeah, so look, there has been a bit of confusion on the riparian buffer zone. So as you know, for BIS, there is thresholds. There's a 50% threshold and 70% threshold for parcels, for beneficial features, but they don't apply for riparian buffer zones. So when the plan was being submitted first day, you could only apply for a riparian buffer zone where the MEA in tranche 1 was greater than 0. So if they were split parcels and that parcel has been digitized, well, within that parcel then all beneficial features such as scrub would be eligible for payment for BIS. Now, if the BIS parcel is showing up with an eligible hectare of 0, you need to contact BIS to get that corrected and to increase your claim. Because if you put a claimed area 0, that means you're claiming 0 payment for acres. So it's important to be able to get paid on those parcels that you enter the area you wish to claim for the acres payment. I hope that clears it up. If you're in any doubt, I can contact the acres email if you have any issues with specific parcels.
Could you also just maybe, Pat, just there's a question there regarding just the commonage parcels less than 10 hectares. Could you just give a run through maybe just of what the plan is for those?
Yeah, so look, initially we would have hoped that we would have the plans in at this stage for those small parcels. So for the ones under 10 hectares that are not going to be scored by the CP team, those parcels are going to get a flat rate of 120 euros per hectare payment. Now, in due course, the farmers with those parcels will be contacted and asked to submit a commonage farm plan for those parcels. So those plans will have to be done by the advisors, and when they're written to, the letter will state the date by which they need to be uploaded. So they will have to be uploaded as a PDF on the Ag Food system, and as I say, in due course those farmers will be contacted.
Okay, a couple of questions there just on the scorecards not being available on the website. Ciara, maybe you could you address that one?
Yeah, so they were inadvertently taken down, but will be back up there available in the next couple of hours.
Perfect. And likewise, there was just a couple of questions there just on payment examples, but I think there is payment examples or examples of CP in general cases up on the website in the various different presentations that were there from previous meetings, I think, and webinars. So there was a good few questions there on the Late Meadow bonus questions. Oisin, maybe could you just address a few of them there? There's number one, can the farmer submit the AgriSnap?
No, just the advisor.
And the questions around the rescore option. So if they go to rescore in 2024, do they have to apply for the late bidder bonus again in year 2?
Well, they don't have to, but if they want to claim it, they can apply for it, of course, yeah.
And I see the other one there, just not all. So if the entire parcel isn't able to be cut, can they apply for the late middle bonus on that parcel?
Unfortunately not, Aidan, and it just for the advisor, just to point you back to page 66 of the spec, it's there in it. It's the whole parcel has to be cut.
So the other ones there, that questions that there was a few questions coming in around, maybe Caroline or Mary, you want to address, just Caroline, maybe the questions around the limitations or the prescriptions that are on the CP parcels. We'd say there was a question there in particular about chemical nitrogen limit, for example, on scored parcels.
Where's that question, Aidan?
So there was a question just there on what is the chemical nitrogen limit for scored parcels? Now there obviously isn't a chemical nitrogen limit bar the baseline that's there, but do you want to address just the management, the general? I suppose you did mention it in your introduction. Yeah, exactly. Just the principles behind the results based.
Yeah, the farmer can do absolutely anything that they wish within the legal constraints of a country, ideally. But in some cases, what they do may impact on their score. There's nothing preventing them from doing it, but if having a higher score is the goal, then they might just consider whether or not it's the right approach. So chemical nitrogen, you can apply all you want, but the more you apply, the more the certain species are going to outcompete your positive indicators, and where they're absent, you're going to drop down on marks for A1, and where they aren't there, the abundance is going to be affected too, so that's A2. That's up to 50% of the available points on the grassland scorecard. So it's not about not being able to do something, but it's just about considering the impact of what you are planning on doing on the score, if that makes sense. And of course, any of those questions you can direct to a project officer or someone else on the CP teams, and we'd be happy to discuss the implications with people. But the bottom line is it's the farmer's decision at the end of the day.
Okay, perfect. And I suppose there was a good few questions there on when, Caroline, when you were going through the presentation, but I suppose it's more so maybe for Mark or Dimpna, maybe just on the plans around notifying participants of the results, the scorecard results, we'll say for 2023, and when those will be available and what the plan is for notifying farmers of those.
Yeah, the results of 2023 is part of a process we have ongoing, so that they should be available. It'll be July or so before they're available, but it's in process at the moment.
And I suppose just to say that the plan there, I suppose, is to issue a PDF of the scorecard results. So it would be if a farmer, for instance, we'll say had the general actions LIG or CP land or commonage, they may well get 3 separate PDFs issued to them with the scorecard results for each of those actions. But I suppose those won't be issued, as Mark says, until after the payments are made. So there was one, I might just address it, I suppose, just from an inspection point of view. There was one a question asked on the structure element of the grassland scorecard, we'll say, where the advisor had scored the parcel and it was then later cut by the farmer and inspected by DAFM after that, and the marks were awarded differently, we'll say, by the DAFM inspection. I suppose it's key on that, and maybe I can hand it over maybe to either Mary or Caroline, maybe just on the guidance. There's clear guidance given in the scorecard guidance for that, but I suppose key to that, the advisor has to select what the primary use of that parcel is. So is that parcel being primarily used for grazing, or is it being primarily used for silage or hay? And I suppose the guidance, the scorecard guidance, gives a bit of detail around that. Mary, do you want to give a wee bit more detail just on the scorecard guidance as regards that structure question?
Yeah, and it's something we're going through in the mandatory training as well. It's one of the key focuses is the structure question. So I think probably that question, because we get it a lot too, Aidan, is I think it's more around the advisors are worried that if they scored a certain way and a farmer maybe not so much cuts it but tops it, and then the inspector goes out, would there be an issue then? I think that's the question we're getting a lot more so than whether they're assessing it for grazing or silage, because we're going through that with them in the scoring. But I think, and maybe you can maybe give a little bit more guidance on that. The inspectors do have access to the advisors' pictures, don't they, for the scorecards and stuff when they go out, and there is
exactly, Mary. Yeah. So look, we would take into account, I suppose, obviously the photo that's taken as part of the scoring process. We would take account of that for structure, but I suppose like and that would happen regularly, I suppose, on that topping element, because obviously management will move on between the advisor scoring and a DAFM scoring. But I suppose specifically, I suppose on the cutting element, I suppose it is important, I suppose, that the margins be left in that too, if it is, depending on the category that it's scored under on the scorecard.
I suppose it's worth mentioning as well, Aidan, that the photo is key then in that case, and no more than Oisin showed there, what you can see in that photo is really useful. So the clearer it is from the photo that you're taking, how, if it's really obvious why you selected that option, then it'll be fine. But if the photo is pointed into a corner of the field and it's really hard to make a complete assessment, it'll be harder to do your job as well, won't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So look, I suppose that's why the photos, I suppose, are, and as Oisin said, I suppose from the late meta bonus point of view too, it is so important, I suppose, that they are an accurate reflection of what's there on the ground, and it makes everyone's life a little bit easier. Just one question there, maybe to Mark, maybe on the tranche 2 applicants who may not, or may have some issue that didn't get their approval letter yet. What is the story there as regards, I suppose, action deadlines?
Yeah, we have, well, the bulk of tranche 2 letters have gone out. We have a small number from the reopenings that we had in the last couple of weeks. Now, I suppose just to remember that all eligible applications are being accepted. So the tranche 2 letters for the remaining cases will issue shortly, but the same deadlines do apply for all cases. So your tranche 2 application or a contract still starts on the 1st of January. So the same deadlines apply. Bearing in mind, as I say, that all eligible applications. So unless there's a fundamental problem with the application, which is in tranche 1 with very, very few, your application will be approved. Now, if there's a specific query, you can always drop us an email and we'll tell you where that specific application is in the approval process. So if you want to drop us an email to the acres, we'll get back quickly to you as to where and whether it has passed validations or not.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. Just one, Oisin, maybe, and it does link in with what your presentation there, just on any leeway around the 14 days for the offshore islands, but I suppose it does link in with that circular that's there for on health and safety issues.
Yeah,
So
we're going in, yeah.
no, so just I suppose any leeway, the question was that was there any leeway in the 14 days between initiating the first scorecard and finalising for cases like that may contain offshore islands?
Well, I suppose the important thing that the advisor has to do is to look at that circular that's there for the inaccessible parcels and contact DAFM, and then we'll take it from there. If it's inaccessible, you can't get to it. You're not going to be able to score it. So it would be more or less would be a leeway there with that parcel, but not for the other ones.
Yeah.
Maybe Aidan, I might just add to that. Like, if there is an issue, I suppose the important thing is to email in to the Acres email. There's no point in telling us next January or December you had an issue. So the important thing is to email at the point you have the issue, and it can be taken into account.
So a couple of questions there, Caroline or Mary. Maybe Mary, you would take that. So will colleges which were burnt in 2023 and got a 0 score be rescored in 2024 so that a payment can be obtained for 20 rather than waiting until 2025? Could you give some guidance maybe on that?
Yeah, so for our CP areas, we're focusing on a certain section, so West Connacht, and then any areas that we felt maybe needed to be rescored and rechecked. So yeah, we most likely will be taking in some of those commonage areas as well. Now we have left areas where we felt farmers needed an opportunity to put landscape actions in place. We've left those until next year. But we've contacted all the farmers where we're going to be scoring their land this year. So if advisors feel like farmers commonage should be scored again this year, if they let us know and we can review them, then yeah, we have no problem with that. Maybe Caroline has a different approach in her CP area that she wants to speak about, but for us, we're focusing on a certain area, targeting 40% this year.
Yeah, we have criteria that we're applying as well, and if the commonage has burnt in the interim, then our criteria will still apply. So I suppose the short answer is it is possible.
Perfect. Yep.
We also, just to say as well, Aidan, sorry, we have a commonage actually that was burnt this year, and what we're doing is we're going to use it as a test site to evaluate how long it takes for the vegetation to recover and to come back into full scoring, so that we'll have that data for again. So we'll have that kind of information going forward, because that's one thing that farmers keep asking us: if the commonage is burnt and it was good score, and how long is it going to take for them to see an impact on their score again. So we're going to use that as kind of a test site for this as well.
Okay. So a question around, I suppose, if a farmer will say has contact, I suppose it's linked in possibly to the AMS, the use of AMS, maybe to detect cutting in extensively grazed in that. But I suppose if a farmer rang to say he cut his extensive grazing by mistake, should we notify you now before it's picked up? And I suppose from an inspection point of view, it's clearly better and avoids a non-compliance penalty. I suppose from our point of view that if it is notified, I suppose the only, I suppose to be aware, I suppose that would render that parcel ineligible for that year for payment, because I suppose it is a compliance issue that's there on that. So I think, John, do you want to, or did you see any other questions that are there that need to be directed? I think that covers most.
Yeah, no, Aidan, I think you've more than covered everything there. So, like maybe the one is, was there anything that any of the panelists seen that they just feel we skipped that maybe needs to be addressed? Mark, Stephen.
Maybe I'll just come in at one there. Maybe others. I suppose one thing, there seems to be a bit of confusion with the late meadow bonus claim. Okay, it's not mandatory. In fact, you should only claim the late meadow bonus each year if the farmer is entitled to it. It's not linked to the scoring of the parcel. So if you score the parcel, submit a scorecard. That is not submitting a claim for late meadow bonus. And likewise, submitting a photo for late meadow bonus is not submitting a scorecard. So they're independent of each other. And I think that question has come up a few times there. So, and it's a yearly, the late meadow bonus claim, you can do it each of the 5 years if those parcels are eligible. So I know there was, at the time the applications were submitted, there was a box there for ticking. That box is redundant. Like it was there as a result of REAP. It shouldn't have been there. It doesn't mean you're claiming a payment for late meadow bonus for the 5 years. It's only each year the request will go out on the 1st of July. And the only way you can claim payment for late meadow bonus is by sending in a valid photograph from that parcel for either the LIG action or low input peat grassland action.
And that's before the 31st of August, isn't it?
Yeah, so the last date of mowing is the 31st of August. So you have 5 days of the mowing activity to submit the photo then, which could be the 5th of September.
I suppose there's a couple of questions there just come in. I suppose Mark, maybe just if you could address that one, reps off cases not appearing on GLAMs.
Just looking at that, yeah. So reps off cases are where the farmer has deceased since entering the scheme. That still needs to be scored. Now, reps off cases will end up through the transfer process in most cases. So until that transfer process is clarified, there may not be a payment on that contract, but in the meantime, the advisor needs to score that land and keep a record of that parcel and of that scoring. Now, that scorecard may not be available on the app, so in that case, there may be a need to use a paper scorecard and to contact us when the scoring is done and to submit the details. Now, once that contract transfer goes through, it's only at that point that a payment can be calculated.
And Mark, do we know the ones that weren't pushed to the app?
Do we know them? Well, we haven't identified them, but
like I'm just wondering, like, is there a way for us? Like, it's only going to be a handful there that are in reps of, so that it's to be able to let those advisors know they need to have whatever scorecards to go, paper scorecards to go.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Or if the advisor is aware that it's in the reps of, contact us as well.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
There was one, Stephen, there, just as regards a question, how do you know that the scorecards have downloaded on the app before you switch off on the offline mode? I don't know whether you've seen, can you just...
Yeah, so when you go into the filter and you select for acres and you select the herd or type in the herd that you want, when you select filter, what will happen is the page will populate with those requests that I showed. So the orange requests, the pending requests, and the submitted requests as well for that herd if you've already submitted requests. Once they appear, that's the available requests for that herd are then stored in the local memory on the phone. That's why we had to reduce the size of those files so we can try and hold as many as we can within the active memory in the phone. And once you have them there, you can go into the settings and turn off the offline, or sorry, switch on the offline mode. And as I said, that isolates the app from the network. So the issues that we had with the network flickering or any of those issues should be resolved that way. So that's how you do it.
Perfect.
So I think that answers.
Yeah, perfect. So Oisin, just one there, just I suppose on if a farmer decides late that he wants his farm scored in 2024 and he submits a BPS amendment before the 31st of May, which is now gone, and takes the farm to be scored, will the scorecard become available?
Sorry, there's on mute. If there's an amendment, yeah, the scorecards will be generated and the request will be sent out to that AgriSnap app.
So that'll be happening over the next couple of days, isn't it, Oisin?
Yeah, over the next couple of days, if an amendment is made, but you have till, maybe someone in BIS might better clarify this, but it's the end of the month, I think, amendments to the BIS application.
Yeah, well, for ticking that rescore, it was the circular went out saying they had until the 31st of May. So that date has passed now. So those requests should already be on the app at this stage.
Yeah. Just one question, John, maybe just one last, just maybe Pat, you want to take this one, just it's not related, it's more related to the NPI end of things in the wild bird cover, one for 2024. If a farmer applies for wild bird food as an NPI in 2024, if approved, they sow it in 2025, for which year are they paid? Also, can they apply for the same action in 2027, which is presumably be sown after the scheme ends?
Yeah, so look, for all NPIs, applications came in there in Q4 of 2023. Look, unfortunately, we're a bit behind in getting those approvals out. So no NPI is approved as of this time. So until a farmer gets the approval letter for an NPI, they are not approved to carry out that action. So obviously the date has passed now for sowing the wild bird cover as an NPI in 2024. So by the time a farmer gets an approval letter, it would be for that action to take place in 2025. So when approval letters will go out towards in the second half of this year, as Ciara outlined, for wild bird cover, that the crop will have to be sown by the set date in May next year. I think it's the end of May. So it'll be planted in 25. That farmer is free to apply for that same NPI in another application. So they could apply, send in another application in 2025 to put the wild bird cover in that same parcel. That will be planted in 2026.
But you won't be paid twice for the same action in the same.
No,
field.
it's an annual. It's an
Yeah.
annual. Yeah. It's a one-off payment. So you're approved to do the wild bird cover once. You'll get paid once for that crop. If you wish to get paid again in the same parcel, it'll have to be a new application that will have to come in, and it'll go through screening and through the approval process again, and there will be an approval letter for each application.
Okay. Thanks, Pat. Okay, Aidan, I think how we got to the bottom of this for the moment anyway.
I think so, yeah. I think that's all the questions covered.
Okay. Thanks, Aidan, for chairing that. And I suppose thanks to our external speakers, Mary and Caroline, for engaging on it, and to our own internal ones too for their contributions here today. It's been very valuable. As I said earlier on, we will upload the presentations and a recording of the session as well, so that you can look back over this afterwards. So that'll just take a couple of days. I hope you found it very useful, I suppose, in terms of just getting an update there on the enhancements that are to the app. So hopefully that helps with the efficiency of field scoring this year. I know there's an awful lot of work in it, and a lot has been delivered there last year. So again, as advisors, you should be proud of that work that's done, and we will be continue to work to try and further streamline it as we can. And as I say, hopefully this year is a lot smoother than last year. So with that, I'll just close the meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.